as usual. We got a special guest here today, Jake Rody, Rody51. This guy is an absolute monster crusher. I know you haven't seen him on many other shows, but we're going to talk a little bit about some of his recent successes as we get into the slate. Sheets is out there in the Hamptons. Looks like he's having a good time. Unfortunately, wasn't able to join him. Was able to see him in New York, but it would have been fun to be out there in the Hamptons with you. I'll start it off with you, Jake. How you doing out there today? And happy to have you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. This is really cool. This is actually my first show.
Awesome.
I haven't done any of these live, actually, talking about DFS. Been on a crazy run in June, over 200K up. Had a great MLB season. I also got a Fantasy World Baseball Championship ticket for FanDuel. That's cool. I've been trying to chase a DK live final seat as well. So hoping to get that here soon and just having a big year.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, congratulations on the big year. And you do stuff with, you're doing stuff with State Kings as well now.
Yeah. I've been putting some of the bigger contests up there. Some of the 777s on DraftKings, like the 100K stuff to first and the superstar type stuff. So been having available for that package.
Yeah, beautiful, man. That's great stuff. We're happy to have you, join us here today. Sheets, how's life out in the Hamptons? What's going on out there for you? You just got out there a few hours ago?
Yeah, just trying to find a good connection, a good place to do my thing. I'm only going to be out here during the week, maybe one day or something. So it shouldn't be that bad. Hey, Rody, what do you like to play? Like what sports do you play? Tell me a little about tell everybody about your DFS life, man. What sports do you do? How big do you don't share? How big do you play? What's your favorite sports? Give me a little insight on what you do.
Well, actually, I haven't done much MLB until recently, going heavy. I mean, I started out probably MLB, and then I kind of died off. I didn't really fall in love with it. And then I got into NFL, and I really like NFL. And then that led me into NBA. So then I played a lot of NBA and did well there. And then just kind of learned the game since 2019. I've been grinding it out. 2020 had a really good year. And then now 2021 having even a better year, So NFL, MLB, and NBA is what I primarily do.
Which one do you like playing the most?
I'd say I won the most money in MLB. Actually, I'm really liking it, but
okay.
I like showdowns on NFL probably the best. I don't know if you guys do a lot of showdowns.
Showdowns in NFL
showdowns. I don't do much NBA showdowns, which I probably should. I see a lot of people making money there, but NFL showdowns are where I'm gonna increase my bankroll there this year. I really enjoy those. I have hit one. I chopped one for one of the $180 deep threats in NFL. A couple of those I've been placing high on, so I really like that contest. But
are you like a projection guy, an instinct guy?
Yeah, I use a lot of projections, all projections. So I don't even do any research. I literally just do straight projections, and I give a lot of people ask me for plays. Who am I on? What stacks? So I definitely go by a lot of the stack projections for MLB, and that's kind of where I'm going with it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, again, congrats on the stuff. We're going to run through this slate. I'm going to share my screen, and we'll sort of go game by game. But I obviously can't use my DraftKings screen because we've gotten in trouble, as everybody in our chat who's up in there knows about. Adam says congrats, by the way, and Adam's a great guy. He's always in our chat over here. And
thank you, Adam. Yeah, I got the chat up actually. Okay, I can see that now too. Okay.
Oh, you got it up. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I got chat up, so we're good.
And people will still be filtering in. So we're going to take this game by game. What's up, Justin? Let's do this. All right. I'm going to share my screen. I'm used to having Sheets run this part of things, so bear with me as I struggle through, which is a pretty simple process. But here we go. I'm going to pull up Sheets, stack sheets, actually, for today and show that because I'm trying to show more stuff that we're using on the site. And let's see. I'm going to sort by your value stack. Let's see. We got the wrong one. Is it showing? It's not showing right now. It is showing. There we go. Just didn't highlight the screen over here, so I'm not used to it. All right.
Sort by the green one.
I will. Sheets, why don't you we're sorting by the modified stack.
Yeah.
I think I am. Yeah, I am.
Oh no, fine. I can't really see it that well.
Oh yeah. Sheets. So you got it's interesting. I like it. You got the Dodgers and Giants at the top here. We talked about it earlier today. I love the Giants today. I mean, Arizona. Look, it sucks that the roof is closed. I wish the roof was open. It's 100 million degrees out there. The ball would be flying, but the roof closed. It's hard to get different on these small slates, and I feel really good about trying to pick on Merrill Kelly, who I still believe is mostly fraudulent, although he's been much better this year. I've actually heard a lot of people talk about him as a pitcher. I really like the Giants. I like the Dodgers. The Dodgers I have as my third stack behind Cincinnati.
By the way, I'm pretty sure you have FanDuel up.
Oh, okay. That's my bad. Do I? Well, that's all right. We can leave it up there for right now anyway. Just talk through it.
The reason why I know is because it lists four people.
Yeah. What's that?
Because it lists 4 players from the team.
It's 4 players, not 5. Yeah. That actually brings up an interesting point I wanted to ask Jake about. I know Jake's you're a 5, like in general, I understand most people in the industry, especially top players, are almost all 5-man stacks. I like to try and get different, and do my little 4-2-2s, my 4-3-1s. I've had good success with it, especially on smaller slates. Do you ever consider stuff like that on a smaller slate, or are you just strictly going 5-man all the time?
Yeah, it does show leverage to be like better for what you do with the 4-3, stack like that instead of doing the 5-3. So the 4-3-1's pretty good stack. I typically stay the 5-man on DK. I like it. I like it the best. I do 4-3-1s a lot on FanDuel.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, I've noticed a lot of people have won tournaments lately. Me and Sheets were talking about it the other day. Like there was like 4 days in a row where people were winning with literally 8 different players from different teams. It was
they were getting so lucky. It is randomly picking guys and getting all the homers.
Yeah, it is almost impossible even to try and figure that out. The only thing is that with the modern day baseball, like I do think going away occasionally from stacking on smaller slates especially can be valuable just because you have such a high K rate for everybody. Everybody strikes out more than ever and everybody hits more. There's more home runs being hit. That's how runs are being scored, which means that you're not getting quite as much out of the full stack. And honestly, the correlation on FanDuel, it's almost impossible to get me not to stack a 4-man stack. Occasionally I'll do a 3-3 thing, but for the most part I'm doing, because it actually, correlates better. The runs and RBIs are much more valuable than they are on DraftKings. But I still agree. I mean, overall, I just like to do it to get a little bit different, because if I'm playing 1 lineup or 2 lineups and Osimo's playing 35 or 150, depending on what tournament you're talking about, I'm gonna have to get a little bit different somewhere when they're gonna be all doing 5-man stacks. That's partly why I like to do it. But let's get into the game by game. Alex, I guess I'll just pull up maybe I can just pull up my DraftKings page and delete my lineup and get it done that way, because it's a little bit hard to go game by game without having something called up here. And let's see real quick. Thanks to X Factor. Appreciate you guys tuning in all the time. Really do. Hopefully we can take one down tonight. And I'm going to try and do this like this. You can see a little bit of my stuff, and if we get in trouble, we get in trouble. So I'm just going to delete my stuff, and we'll go game by game. All right. It's not showing that window. See, this is what happens. I used to. That's one thing that was nice about working with RG and other guys. We always had a producer controlling everything, and I sometimes miss that. Oh, it is working out. It is showing up. Perfect. All right. Until we get in trouble, what's up, WW Fresh? Another guy with another nice takedown the other night. We're going to talk game by game here. Milwaukee and Pittsburgh. I am using Burns as my SP2 on DraftKings primarily. I do have a little Castillo, but Burns is my main SP. I don't mind, because I'm getting different with the bats, to take a little bit of chalk at pitching. I tend to go that route in general. And Jake, I'll start off with you just to talk about it. What are your thoughts? Like, I'll go different on pitchers if I feel like a guy has tremendous upside, or if I find an angle or something like that. But for the most part, getting the points out of your pitcher, I feel like, is the most important thing. It's also been the hardest thing to do lately. So I'm not willing to take as many shots if I'm going to stack a really, really low-owned team already. Then if I felt like there was a much, much better option, I would use it. But we see how awful Pittsburgh's been. They don't strike out a ton, but Burns can make up for some of that just with his talent alone. Are you using Burns tonight, and what do you do in general with your pitching? Do you like to differentiate there?
Usually I pay up for the top pitchers. I usually take some of the top pitchers. Burns is projected number 2 on the projections here. I got obviously DeGrom's 1, but I have been dipping down to some of the lower value a little bit, but I definitely like Burns as SP2 for sure. It's going to pair well with the Giants too. So
yeah, I agree. And the thing is, the Giants are actually they're pretty expensive tonight, but you can still find there's enough other value, like individual value plays you can play, or 2 men you can get. You can play the other side of that game, which I'm doing. The Arizona side is really cheap. Any interest in the bats here? I know that Sheets, or Jake, go ahead, and then we'll go over to you, Sheets. But are you interested at all in the Milwaukee? I know people are on their stack a little bit tonight. I'm not getting to them as much. Ugly Hitters Park. Crow is not a great pitcher, but he's not like the absolute worst. I don't know. I'm just sort of off of it a little bit. I could regret that later. Are you on them at all?
I'm actually kind of off them too as of right now. I'm still kind of working a little bit. They are projected a little high owned. I think maybe over owned, so it might be a good idea to take off the Brewers. They are projected decent up there for a good stack, but they're not high enough where the ownership's actually kind of outweighing it. So might be a good idea to stay off that game.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm at. Sheets, how about you? Have you come around to any Milwaukee today, or are you off?
Yeah, first of all, I think that it's important to consider that we might really be in kind of a macro change on how we're supposed to approach these slates, given the restraints put on kind of the top pitchers, and that plus the weather just completely starting to ramp up like across the country. I feel as though that where in April and May, just jamming in these top pitchers was like definitely what you had to do. I'm really starting to think that we should be a little more creative with the pitching. The combination of and again, I am of the belief that the ceilings of these guys that were early in the season, like you had Biebers with like 50s and stuff. I think that the combination of the weather heating up plus the spin rate stuff, I think it's going to hold them back a little bit. And I think these kind of bad SP2 plays could end up like being in some good lineups for a while, coming up. So I think it's something to consider. And that's not to say DeGrom's a bad play or Burns is a bad play, right? I think those two are naturally the top options. But I definitely think it's something to consider, With that said, I have about 2/3 of my DraftKings lineups with Burns in them. And I do have about 83% with Grom. So I'm kind of like just going against myself there. But that means I do have some sprinkles. Like I have a couple of Crow lineups, if you want to know the truth. Just really just because. I mean, he raised for me as kind of like a whole bunch of like SP2s that like have no chance. You know what I mean? But, if one of them gets in there and you have one of those nights where everything blows up, maybe that's what you're going to do. I did not get to Milwaukee. For most of the reasons that Jake touched upon, just the combination of them, being, I guess the word he uses is it's kind of trite in the industry, say overowned, but it's important to realize what that means. It means that yes, they probably have a good chance to do okay, but not as good of a chance as the people are just kind of expecting. You know what I mean? So I am not going to be on Milwaukee tonight for the combination of those reasons.
Yeah, and I want to say, like, it's interesting, just to show you how weird baseball is. These guys just faced off about 10 days ago, I believe it was. I guess it was 10 days ago. And you had, Crow put up 22 fantasy points, and you got 14 out of Burns on the second lowest output, I believe, of the season. So it's just funny to think like, we're also locked in. So I do like trying to get, creative. I just feel like on states where I tend to stack, a team that's more off the board, I'll eat the chalk and take who I feel is the best play in some spots. Justin, we'll get into that Colorado game in a bit, but Arenado revenge, it's Arenado in Colorado is a good play anyway, but I don't factor in revenge things for any hitters in baseball. Occasionally a pitcher, it might make a slight difference too. It actually could make a negative impact because they might get a little too ramped up. It's a little different in basketball when you have the ball in your hands and you're facing your former team and things like that, where we've seen some real trends that are obvious, but I'm not getting there. And Sheets, how much Crow do you have? I mean, I guess you're playing multiple lineups, so what do you have, like maybe 5-10% of them?
Yeah.
All right. I like it, though. I think that's an interesting way to go that I certainly don't see people doing. And this is a Milwaukee team that scored 15 runs yesterday, and we used to be very, very, very happy to pick on them a couple weeks ago even. Let's jump over to the next game. I'll start with you this time, Eric, and then we'll go over to Jake. Dodgers in Washington. We looked at on your stack. You have the Dodgers on FanDuel as at least the top stack. How do you feel about them on DK, and how much of them are you getting to?
Well, I'm not playing them because I'm going out to dinner and I'm afraid of the weather.
Okay.
I just am, and I've just kind of made peace with the fact that that if I have any weather concerns at all, I'm just not going to play it because it's not like I'm worried about minutes in basketball. This is like risking a zero. You know what I mean? And I just can't take a zero. So if it was a tremendous play, like low owned, good upside and all that stuff, I'll take a shot with weather risk, but I really don't want to be in front of the computer tonight and get the latest Roth update, just continue to track and then have to swap everything out. So I'm just not going to do it. So that's true transparency for it. I do think that if you told me now that the Dodgers were going to go, I would think that they're a really, really strong play. I think that some people might try to play a little Corbin at that mid range, which might make it even double leverage for the Dodgers. I don't know. Maybe that's reaching, but I do like the Dodgers if the game plays. But I'm just not doing it. I don't know if that helps, hurts, but that's
no, that's helpful. I mean, I sort of hear you a little bit. Like the Dodgers are pretty familiar with Corbin. Obviously, I'm a Dodger fan. Justin Turner completely owns the guy. If it was all things considered, he's a terrific pivot off of Arenado. I like the weather concerns. At times I'll play him. At times I won't. I don't feel as terribly worried about the situation. I actually do have a couple Dodger stacks on DraftKings. I didn't get there over on FanDuel because I'm only playing a couple lineups over there. But how about you, Jake? Any interest in the Dodgers? I'm guessing we're not interested in any of the pitchers, right? We don't really need to talk about that. I don't think anybody's playing.
No pitchers. I love the Dodgers, both sides. Yeah. I got them. I just got a lineup in. I love it. I got Turner in there, like you said. I really like that game. I am watching the weather. I got the update right now. If that weather holds off, they could get lower ownership here too.
Yeah,
they are one of the top stack up on the stack projections. With weather concerns, people get off them. They get lower ownership. Yep. You know, they have a couple big innings like they've done in the past, 11-run inning, and that's how I won 100K one night. So, stack the Dodgers. So, I've kind of been a little biased towards them. So
I love it. No, I think it makes a lot of sense. And what I would say to people, if you're going to stack them, you can play the lefties. I tell everybody this all the time. The Dodgers, the Muncy and Bellinger's career power ISO is very similar versus lefties than it is righties, and obviously it's significantly lower ownership against lefty-lefty matchups. So I would include the Dodger lefties, and I actually don't. I think Bellinger would be a premium play at 3,700. It's just a little too cheap. You got a little noise in the background there, Sheets. I think
that was the Maven. That was Matt the Greek.
Your son, the prophet.
Matt the Greek is giving out the Hawks tonight against the spread.
What's the spread tonight? I didn't even look at the point spread yet on that one. But
was it like pick 'em or something?
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty close. I actually like in Milwaukee pretty good tonight, but I didn't have a strong take yesterday. I thought it was going to be Clippers or close, and I was obviously wrong about that. But I do have one tonight. I think Milwaukee wins this game. All right. So we all like the Dodgers. And look, we have some value bats on the Washington side that we have to sort of talk about here. Gonsolin, first of all, is not that bad a pitcher. You're going to have somewhat of a bullpen. I mean, you're starting off with what's his name, Victor Gonzalez. I don't mind taking some shots on with some of these guys as value plays, but a little bit to the point that Sheets was making, like using one-offs as value plays in a game that you're a little bit concerned about weather even doesn't always feel great to me. Jake, how do you sort of approach that type of situation?
Yeah, I definitely won't play a one-off like he said on a weather game like that. You don't want to take that zero and screw up a really good stack to the top, win equity. So yeah, if you're concerned about that weather, I would either fully stack it and take the full zero, or you go with no one-offs in that game, just so you don't screw up one of your bigger stacks. Yeah,
it makes sense. And I think you can play a mini stack. You could play the cheap guys, a Harrison, Castro, and then you can include one of the actual hitters in Soto or Schwarber if you want to, and make a little mini stack to go along.
Yeah, a little 3-man, little two-man stack.
Perfect, exactly like that. That's what I would be doing if I was going to be doing anything with it at all. But I found myself some other value that I like a little bit better. But I do have the Dodgers as my third favorite stack. Not playing enough lineups to where I have a ton of them, but I do like them. Guys, feel free to pop questions in there too. I'll get to the chat in a minute. But I do want to just quickly go through these games. San Diego, Cincinnati. So Castillo is my other guy I'm considering. He's been much, much better of late. I'm using him in I'd say he's in like 30% of my lineups on DK. Those are lineups where I'm not playing as much of. I've only got 4 pitchers that I'm using, but Castillo is definitely one of them. We've seen him sort of get back into form. San Diego's obviously a tough offense. He pitched pretty well against them last time. He pitched pretty well, but he still, only put up 18 fantasy points. I think Burns is the better play in general, but I sort of like getting a little bit lower ownership. I don't think people are going to go after him here. And great pitchers umpire, by the way, in this game. So that's another thing to consider. That's my only argument. Low ownership versus Burns, and the better pitchers umpire in this one. So that's why I do have some Castillo tonight. Any interest for you, Jake?
I do like him. It's not a bad matchup, like you said. Pitchers umpire. Man, the Padres can go off at any time, though. They have some big bats over there.
That's dangerous, yeah, especially in Cincy.
It is definitely he's going to get lower ownership, so it's definitely a good play. Have 30% of them, little GPP, for sure.
Yeah,
I don't mind the play.
Nice. And Sheets, how about you? Are you getting Danny Castillo in the end?
Yeah, I got off of it at the end.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I did. I just made him part of a spread of my other pitchers. You know, as I mentioned, I have a bunch of Burns, a bunch of DeGrom, and then I'm sprinkled. I just didn't just quite get to him enough. Maybe enough. I'd have him literally five. I'm playing like 20 lineups. I have him in like one or something like that. Just because I wanted to spread others. Maybe that's a bad idea. But I do like Cincinnati a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that because I like Cincy quite a bit as well. What worries me a little, San Diego's got a really good bullpen. Weathers is going to pitch somewhere between 3 and 5 innings. That's usually what we get out of him. Of course, if he only pitches 3, it's probably a good sign for your Cincinnati stack. But I really do like Cincinnati. I mean, Castellano stands out. I actually like Aquino down at the bottom of the lineup. You've got the value in Lopez. You can play him at second or short. He'll be the only one who I think is really popular, probably approaching 20%. And then you've got India who you can use, and you always have a good hitting catcher batting in the middle of the order, and Stevenson, and even Votto in a lefty. Votto's shown a little bit of he's gotten a little bit of his power back. It won't show up in his overall numbers because he hasn't played enough games, but we've actually seen a little more power out of him per at bat than we have in recent years. So I don't mind the Cincinnati stack at all against Weathers, and what is even a pretty good bullpen. But I love Cincinnati when they're at home. How about you, Jake? Are you any interest in the bats from Cincinnati? I know you're not. We talked about Castillo.
Some of them are popping for pretty good point per dollar. That's about it, though. I mean, I don't think I'm going to get to them in a stack. They grade out better on DraftKings than they do on FanDuel. So yeah, run them up more on DraftKings if you're looking that way. They're definitely good value tonight. Yeah. So I don't mind them.
Yeah. And I'm guessing none of us are playing San Diego, although we could always. I mean, it's the kind of team that you can sort of always argue for any of these guys as one-offs or any of these guys as a stack. Like Grisham can had a couple home runs yesterday. You've got Tatis, Machado, obviously Cronenworth. This is a monster lineup. Will Myers down at the bottom, really cheap on FanDuel. But I personally am not getting to them against Castillo today, just with the other stacks I like better. That's just me. We had a question from Chris Sheets about the colors. Can you explain the colors on your sheets?
No, the colors are just completely just made up by me. It's not like green means anything, orange means anything. They're just one color to separate one column from the other. There's no like green means money or yellow means I'm afraid or anything like that. It's just those the awful colors of an uncreative mind.
I think it's pretty creative. I like it still.
I will throw in, by the way, I have 15% of a couple of these Cincinnati guys, and there is a 2K guy hitting 6th, that being Alejo Lopez.
Yeah.
And there's him, there's Winker. I have some of, and I like what's his Jake's reference to Aquino at 3K. I like him, yeah, that's it.
We've seen Aquino's pop before. He won me a lot of money a couple years ago when he came up at the end of the September call-ups that year. That was pretty good stuff. Let's jump over to Cleveland and Houston. This is another pivot that some people will make. You have a pretty low K prop today on Valdez. He's actually a good pitcher, but the Ks aren't always there. Cincinnati does struggle with Cleveland does struggle with lefties. I'm not getting to him because I'm not playing enough lineups today, but he's a really good real-life pitcher, and I think he's a completely legitimate pivot if you don't want to play DeGrom or the chalky Burns. How about you, Jake? Any interest there, or you're just skipping past it?
I do like his price a little bit. He's graded down on top 4 on DK, and for me, better on FanDuel play, top 3. But I mean, you still got Burns and DeGrom if you're going to get there. But he's gonna get a lot of lower ownership. So if you guys are looking for a good GPP pivot, I think on FanDuel you could make it. But he projects so much lower than DeGrom. So
yeah, I'm sort of on that page.
I'm horrible with names, so I try not to use that many names.
I know I mess up all the time too, and
I can't mess any of these. I mess them all up. So
it just happens, you know what I mean? You just got to roll with it, I think. Sheets, how about you? Any interest in Valdez?
No.
Oh, you got to none of them, even with the multi lineups. Okay.
Yeah.
I sort of thought you'd find some of them at the end. I just want to point out, I'm taking a double check on the weather.
I have much worse pitchers than him.
we had some pretty serious wind blowing in earlier, and I just want to double check.
Yeah, 10 to 15 miles an hour is still blowing in, so it's actually probably pitcher friendly at the park right now too. So
yeah, it gives Valdez a bump and takes a little bit of my love for Houston, which would have been there away. I would have had Houston as a higher stack if the wind is blowing up.
I don't have Houston much as a stack either.
You're not into them. And Sheets, how about you? How much Houston are you getting to?
Yeah, one of us, me, Jake, one of us is going to win, I think. Because I got pretty much all the Houston, I think. On
So totally opposite
It's
of
a
me.
good
then.
news for you. Whenever I jump off of the stack that I've played like 9 days in a row, they go
Yeah.
off. Atlanta yesterday was the best example ever of it. We talked about it.
But the win does is it's definitely something that I really should consider a little more. Right now, I have too much of Houston. I have too much of another team. I have way too much of a different team. But Houston, I have too much of. But I just do. And Toro is really good there. I mean, I don't know. I'm probably gonna go down with that. That's just my.
Yeah,
probably
I think
maybe a bad idea, but that's where.
No, I don't think it's horrible. I mean, the one thing is like the value you're getting. I mean, Tucker at 3,700 is too cheap. Brantley at 3,900 is too cheap. Toro at 3K batting second now. I believe in the talent of him, so I think 3K is too cheap. I actually do. Toro's the only one I'm actually playing a good portion of. I do have a couple Tucker and Toro lineups, like it's just along with my 4 and 5 mans. But I do like Toro's value. I obviously need it because I'm spending up at pitcher and I'm playing an expensive Giants team, which is weird to say out loud. But I do like Toro a little bit. How about you? Any interest in Houston? And any interest in Toro specifically, or any of these value? I mean, just the fact these guys are a little too cheap, Jake.
I do like how they're a little cheap. I'm not playing a lot of lineups either, and I just had to make a stand.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna get off Houston, so I'm not
Makes
looking to get there.
So it's one of you guys. It's one of your guys that are going to win. As Sheet said,
probably.
We did get a giant lineup, and Yastrzemski is in it. Dickerson, Flores, Duggar, Solana. I think it's exactly what.
God, I can't. I'm trying to figure out how much Yastrzemski I have on FanDuel. It's just so much.
I have him on DraftKings, and I know one's going to play him on DraftKings. I think he will get played on FanDuel.
He's currently projected about 11%, so it's still not high, but his price is so cheap. The FanDuel prices they grade out so well on FanDuel. The Giants do. They're definitely grading out really well over there with their price.
Yep. Which is, of course, why I'm playing them on DraftKings and not FanDuel, because I love to go the other way with those things. JH has he says it's fading the San Francisco game going to be different or not a good idea. No, nobody's playing the San Francisco. I mean, this is a very low-owned game. This is just my idea. That's why I'm playing it. If the Giants were going to be 30% or 20% on these guys, I would have no interest in them. I love them as a off-the-board stack on a small slate, and I think they have the potential to really go off. But I don't think you're getting different or anything by fading that game. That's not a game that people are all over. There's a few spots that people are going to play a little Peralta maybe at 2,800, but even that, I don't think you're going to see like a ton of ownership on any of that game. So you can go ahead and feel free to fade that game if you like your lineups better without it. Mets and Atlanta, obviously two really good pitchers here. DeGrom and Anderson, I like both of them. I mentioned I had 4 pitchers. Anderson's my fourth guy that I'm using on DK. About 30%, 70% DeGrom. I'm sorry, 90% DeGrom, 70% Burns, 30%. How does that work out, right? Well, that's what it says on my sheet. DeGrom and Anderson is my other 30-ish percenter. And how about you, Jake? Why don't we start off with you? Any interest in Anderson, and then what are your thoughts on DeGrom for tonight?
I do like Anderson. DeGrom, you got to probably play him, sprinkle him in at least. I do like Anderson. I'm gonna get some Anderson today. I think. Feel like Sheet said earlier in the show, pitching's been all over the place. Like I'm a guy that like pays down a little bit. It either goes SP1 high and then like a lower value guy sometimes, and then I'll pay up for some bats. I just think some of these smaller slates, if you can hit the stack where the bats smash for 12 runs, you're going to win. If you throw Anderson in there, he gets 20 and DeGrom gets 34. Mm-hmm. That's a homer difference is it. And you get a team with 5 or 6 homers. Heck, Tejas threw up 4 homers in one game, 3 homers or whatever. These guys can go off for anything, So smaller slate, get different a little bit. I think it's okay to go high expensive and then go with the cheaper guy. I think Anderson fits a good mid build too if you want to go 2 mid guys. So.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with everything you said. I do think Anderson's going to have some ownership tonight, but I think you can get different with your build by playing him without. It's weird though, because like playing he and DeGrom, I know on DraftKings you don't have 12 points for the win. It's kind of strange. People don't generally like to play both of these guys in their SPs ones in the same lineup. Their SPs in the same lineup. And I'm not getting to the bats at all in this game. Sheets, you talked a little bit earlier about a Mets contrarian stack. What are your thoughts on that still?
Just 40% of them. That's all I have.
Ooh, I like it. So
Yeah,
who are the favorites here?
I got 40% Mets stacks on DraftKings, and then on the other hand, I have 15% Anderson. I completely agree with everything Jake said about Anderson with respect to you want to pay down a little bit, and he definitely has a real ceiling here. I have this feeling that he's going to be really really owned, and the Mets rate well enough for me that I want to take advantage of that leverage. They're certainly not like a top 2 or 3 stack or anything like that, and those lineups can get just torched. But I think the combination of leverage makes for me to make a good play. And God forbid, there's some kind of more weather risk in in some of these other, with Burns or whoever it is, then people will then just cram in Anderson also. So that's what I'm doing. But I do think Anderson in and of itself is a very very good play, and I'm certainly getting like 15% of them.
I love it. I think that's a really really good Mets. I love the Mets contrarian. I would say like everybody outside of Alonso and I'm sorry, not even Alonso. Actually, everybody except for Lindor and McCann are far too cheap for their talent level, and they've also played themselves into being this bad. They've been really really bad. But Conforto is not going to be this bad forever. McNeil is not going to be this bad forever. So I don't mind that. Obviously, a huge upgrade for them hitting-wise. So I like getting different on this slate. That's why I'm playing the Giants. I understand the Mets. I'm guessing, Jake, no interest in the bats for you in this game, or am I missing something?
No, I don't play a lot of those MME contests right now. If I was MME in though, like Mets you should get some Mets, like 5 to 10% in your 150 lineups. If you're doing some of those smaller MMEs or the bat flip types contests. Yeah, because Anderson's going to be high owned. He's going to be 40 to 50% owned. And if the Mets go off, like you said, some of these guys should be better. You got tons of leverage to gain, and you can take down a tournament with the Mets stack, I think.
Love it.
But I won't have much interest in the high dollar stuff.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. I always take I like on smaller slates to take big bats against pitchers. I don't tend to do it against DeGrom though. It's not the same thing as Scherzer and Cole who give up 40 home runs a year. DeGrom just doesn't give up. He's giving up more hard contact, but. I mean, he's given up what this year? Like, what are we doing here? Freddie Freeman has shown us a power against him in the past, but I just not get to any of that on this slate even. This is another game. It's interesting because you're going to have, it's Coors. I'm going to take my stand by what I said and play very very little, very very few bats in this game. I don't think Senzatella is. You look at his raw numbers and they're not pretty. He gives up hard contact. This is a good spot for St. Louis. I'm not saying anything like that. But look at the innings pitched. Look at the runs allowed. Look at the home runs allowed. This guy, other than the one outing against the Dodgers where he gave up 3 home runs early in the season, hasn't given up more than a home run in a game. Not that even one home run you can still win with your stack getting there. But he's been pitching innings. He's actually been fighting his way through. I'm not suggesting you use him by any means, but I'm just saying I'm okay with getting rid of this game for the most part. With the exception of maybe a couple of Arenado and Goldschmidt to go with some of my Giant stacks. I don't think that I try to avoid Coors. I don't like playing chalky Coors stacks, and you're always up there with a million other people. Jake, how do you approach Coors in general, and what are your thoughts on tonight's slate?
Actually, yeah, I've been off Coors a lot lately. Haven't really been on them. I don't like them. I don't think I'll get into any Cardinals today. Mm-hmm. I do have some Colorado. I did do a 3-man Colorado stack, 4-3-1 build on FanDuel. Nothing crazy.
Is there anybody? Because I know I love McMahon. He would be the one who unfortunately he's really struggled, so he's down to 7th. But you're going to get no ownership on this guy. And again, I'll take talented lefties against Wainwright any day, even though Wainwright's been really good lately. Who are the guys who you find yourself using a little bit of?
Yeah. McMahon, I got him for sure. I got Charlie Blackmon on the lineup, and then I got Story. Grades out as the best Colorado guy. I got those 3 in a stack, actually.
Yeah, and I think you're going to get Colorado a little bit lower owned tonight, so I don't think this is like.
Yeah, McCann's coming in at 7%, guys. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. That's the side of this game I would be attacking would be the Colorado side, not the St. Louis side. And I know Wainwright's been good, but for a guy who can't throw as hard anymore, who's going to have to rely on off-speed pitches in Coors Field. This is the side of the game that I would side with. Would be Colorado.
Yep. So that's what I got too. So
Yeah. How about you, Sheets? What is your interest level in this game?
Yeah, I have 0 of the Cardinals.
Nice.
And I actually have very, very little of Colorado either. I definitely agree with both of you in that if I was going to play this game, it would be the Colorado side. I just based on the conversation that we have all the time and our conversation earlier, I just feel as though just Coors is just, especially for the road team, is just kind of overowned. And sure, St. Louis is in a good spot because they're playing in a good park, and it's not like these other times where Pittsburgh's playing there. Pittsburgh's terrible, and these other teams that were terrible playing at Colorado. I mean, this is actually a team that can hit. So
Right.
It's not like I think that St. Louis is going to bust necessarily. I just feel as though it's baseball. You know what I mean? And if these guys end up being a 25% on stack or anything like that, I just don't want it. You know. So
Right.
that's my take. I'm going to have 0 on DraftKings, and that's and God forbid that weather concern actually is something over there.
Right. Then you get it. Yep.
You know, that's even more of I need even more excuse to fade it.
The only problem is if it gets serious later on, then it takes away. Then my Giants stack is going to become the chalk because then everybody's going to pivot over to the Giants. That's my only concern
That's
about
true.
this play.
That
It's
is
a little
true.
bit of a game theory problem, but I'm willing to go with it. I do think that I want to remind everybody who if you are new to tuning in, like we are tournament players. We are not. If you're playing a cash game, you should be playing some Cardinals. You should be playing. Their prices are too ridiculous. Tyler O'Neill and Dylan Carlson should not be these prices, even if this game was in St. Louis. So they're just way too cheap on DraftKings. But we're tournament players, which is partly why we're trying to find the reasons for the fades in general.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So Jake, you play the higher buy and stuff, and do you play those more like conservative? I mean, I guess you have to play more conservatively than the MME stuff because you have to beat fewer people and stuff like that. But do you find yourself, consciously playing differently? Because I always felt that was I would say a leak of mine, but something I really haven't perfected yet is the types of things to put in certain different types of tournaments. Like I'm very lazy sometimes. Like I'll run 20 max lineup builds and I'll put the same 20 max lineup build in my 3 max tournaments, my single entry tournaments, and whatever, and then I'll just take the highest upside one that I think and just put that in my biggest buy-in. Are you like very careful with your lineup construction with respect to to tournaments? What type of tournaments you're in? Tell me a little about that.
yeah, I kind of make sure I'm definitely getting close to the like top median projection. You don't want to be like 40 points away and have all these crap stacks. You know, when playing by projections, and you just want to get enough leverage for the contest too. So making sure you're playing a little contrarian, and then like. You're going to see some cash players get into the type cash like that. O'Neill, you could play as a one-off in a 5-2-1 and a DK stack, just if I need to get a little bit more, a little bit. But I usually get pretty crazy, like on Dodgers a little bit. Like I take them down with more lower owned stacks and kind of get more chalkier in the pitchers a little bit, I'd say.
Okay.
So,
No, that makes sense. I feel like we have a similar approach in that sense. I mean, I'm sort of trying to do the same things as much as I possibly can. And by the way, Big Ticket, I didn't notice what he said before. He said, thanks for the Bassett thoughts last night. Took down a 10K tournament last night. Beautiful. Well done, man. This is pretty much every day we're getting double-digit, 10K winners that were in the chat watching the shows, which is great. We may not have that many of us guys, but the ones who are watching, are at least some of us are doing well. And hopefully the rest of us will catch up with it. I'm not one of those some. All right, let's talk about this game. This is I'm going to make my case for the Giants again. I'd like to try to pick on Merrill Kelly, who has been much better this year and has honestly cost me money. Last year was a different story. The year before was a different story. Pretty much every year throughout his career has been. I've made a lot of money off of stacking against this guy. What I also like about getting against Merrill Kelly, and like when I say he's been better, it doesn't mean he still hasn't sucked. He's not a good pitcher. The Giants, I looked at some pitch profiles data. This is the kind of, it's the perfect matchup with the lefties against Merrill Kelly to me here today. So I also love that you have a terrible bullpen behind him. I wish the roof was open. I wish the hitting environment was even better, but obviously every stadium is an upgrade for San Francisco. And I like this lineup with Yastrzemski back in it. The Giants are, a pretty solid lineup. I wish we still had Brandon Belt going, but I'm a big fan of Wade. I like Dickerson. I like so those are my 3 favorites: Wade, Dickerson, Yastrzemski, and then I'm filtering in pieces of literally everybody else in the lineup: Posey, at catcher. I know you have to spend up. People aren't going to do it. Solano is the one I'm kind of avoiding at 4,400, batting eighth, I believe he is. He's the only guy I don't have a lot of exposure to. But I have some Wilmer Flores even at 4,700. And it doesn't, it feels weird. It would have felt crazy to play Brandon Crawford. This is a guy who used to be 2,500 at Coors Field. But you see this year, he's really flashed a lot more power, hitting the ball a lot harder. He's hit 17 home runs already. I mean, this is kind of crazy. So I'm rolling with it, and I love that it's going to be low owned. This is my favorite stack on the day, and I love the other side of this game as well. I don't think it's for a full stack, but you just get some value. And then I'll turn it over to you, Sheets, and then we'll go to Jake. But I really like Peralta. His price, assuming that we have to see how the lineup shakes out. Assuming that Vogt is catching, I like Vogt quite a bit, and I think that's what we're going to see tonight. And I really like Rojas, who we talked about as having sort of sneaky power and just getting on base a lot. And then Escobar is the spend up, but Rojas, all these guys are cheap. I would call them complimentary, not 2 men, 3 men, and even some one-offs from this game. So I really like the Arizona and San Francisco sides of this game. Sheets, I'll go to you first and see where you ended up here, and then we'll go over to Jake.
Yeah. So first of all, just to kind of clean up the rest of my stuff that I didn't get to before is I'm actually getting 2 lineups that makes 8% of Senzatella back from that Colorado game. I'm going to get 1 lineup with Merrill Kelly. I'm going to get 1 lineup with Cueto, just to let you guys know. Yeah. And I'm getting 1 lineup with Mejia from the Cleveland thing. But I have just an incredible amount of San Francisco on FanDuel. And as Jake was kind of alluding to, that's not going to be any big secret on FanDuel. Because when I put my projections up there, it's basically an aggregation of the industry anyway. Even though I'm kind of like ranking it my own way, I mean, if they're gonna pop is that great of a play, they're gonna pop. You know what I mean? And people are gonna play them. They just are. And I think that the higher the buy-in is on FanDuel, the more people are gonna play them. I think that Bobby's approach of playing them on DraftKings is the super. Is something that I don't even think I'm going to get much of. I'm going to be really relegating to mostly on FanDuel, but they're going to be significantly lower owned on DraftKings. So I'm certainly going to give you the go ahead to do that. I didn't quite get to as much Arizona as I thought I was going to, just because you know what, I'm only playing 20 lineups. I just got these other teams just that much more, but I do like Arizona. And that's the deal. San Francisco on FanDuel, I got just an incredible percentage of them.
Love it. How about you, Jake?
Yeah. You gotta. For my type of builds, I know a lot of people are asking about builds in the chat. Like you gotta have some cheap. If you're gonna pay high up for pitchers, you're gonna have to have some of these cheaper guys. The Giants are cheap on FanDuel. They're a great play on FanDuel, but like Sheet said, they're gonna be owned. But you got to just get different somewhere else. So if you're going to pay up for pitcher, you're going to play some Giants. You're going to have to find the Dodgers that are low owned to play the low owned Dodgers. The Reds are actually kind of popping a little bit, like you guys were talking about earlier. They're coming in low owned. So just kind of stack them with some of these Giants that you guys want, and then you can still pay up at pitcher because you're going to need a little bit of value to get that pitcher that you want. If you want DeGrom, you want Valdez, you want Burns, you want some of those high end pitchers. You're going to have to find some cheaper guys. The Giants are filling in nicely, little 3-man stacks, even a 4-man stack, and then you get different with some 3 big bats come back from it.
Love it.
Hey, Bobby, any of these San Francisco guys you worried about getting pinch hit for?
I mean, sure, there's a chance, but I mean, I guess you could always say that. We've seen it even with Dickerson before, but in general, not really. Like I'm sort of rolling with the stack, and I don't really feel too terribly worried. I mean, they're already a little bit depleted with some of their bats out. I guess there's definitely a chance, but I wouldn't imagine it would be the top of the order as much. And again, I'm paying up for these guys, so I'm playing the good guy. I mean, nobody's pitch hitting for your Yastrzemski, Posey, Crawford, Wade. Those guys are pretty locked in, I think. Maybe Wade or Dickerson occasionally you could see something, but you got Wilmer Flores already in the lineup, who's your main lefty killer, who they usually use off the bench. So it doesn't worry me as much. You might see a Darren Ruff pinch hit for somebody at some point. That's a possibility. But it's something I'm willing to embrace. But it's a good question. So I think we went through that. I do want to answer Adam's question in chat about the what we consider large field versus medium field. So I would say that large field, to me, I actually think about 1,000 players or more. Sometimes, depending on what kind of tournaments are being offered out there, maybe at some days I would refer to something with 600 or 700 players as a large field. But mostly, so I guess you'd say somewhere between 500 and 1,000 or more, and then anything over over 5,000 players is a monster tournament. It's just a ridiculously huge tournament you want to get completely crazy with in baseball. How do you feel about that, Jake? What would you? I mean, like large field versus smaller field. I think 300 players or less is a smaller field tournament, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I even consider kind of like, the 777 tonight's 434.
Right.
So you can kind of, I mean, you get general like 300, you could say, but even that 434, yeah, there's some good competition in that. But that, I mean, that's smaller too. Guys are taking that down with a more conservative play. You don't have to get too crazy sometimes. A lot of chalk's been taking these down lately. I took down a big one with Toronto that one day for 18 runs, but I just got different elsewhere and I got the homers, and you just don't always have to avoid the chalk in these. You want to play a little chalk in the smaller ones, but then you start getting over 1,000. I'd say, yeah, you got to start finding some leverage. The bat flip, the big 5,000 to 20,000, you really got to start getting the leverage there to take that down.
Yep,
for sure.
Sheets, you sort of on the same page with this?
Yeah, the one. This is a little theoretical, but the two types of tournaments I kind of think about are the you were talking about the live finals that you were trying to hunt, right? So when you have a tournament like that, when you have like 200 people, that's like basically winner take all. It's just, I think, a little different. By the way, sure. I don't know if you caught this in the chat, but I want to seed into this $3,500 mega satellite.
Did you find out when it is?
I don't even know when
it
is.
DK final ticket. Yeah, I burned mine on the last $3,500 one. I did not win. I got.
Yeah, do they run those?
That's a good ticket.
They should be once a week, I think, right?
Yeah, they're starting to pop more of the bigger ones out now. They got like 53 more DK tickets to give out. So
here's the one I was going to ask you about. So I hear different theories on this, like on single entry, right? So on the one hand, you would think that naturally that single entries you want to play conservatively. Yet on the other hand, in single entry you get such condensed ownership on some guys that it would seem that you would probably want to at least take a shot to leverage against at least one or two of those, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. I actually think that in baseball, I mean, it's different with each sport, right? Like in basketball, I would tend to lean more towards the conservative plays in those type of field tournaments, but those type of single entry stuff. But in baseball, the truth is that the best projections, I mean, look, they're not going to be right all the time. There's way too much variance in this game. So I actually like the idea of getting more creative, but you don't have to get overly creative. Like let's use tonight's slate as an example. Let's say you were playing the 3,500 tonight. I don't think that the Giants would be my primary stack in that particular thing on DraftKings at these prices. I don't think. Would
you? Well, okay. So let's say it's 3,500. Let's say it's 3,500. They paid like what, one every 4 spots, something like that.
Yeah.
So you have like 50 people in it paying 12 spots. I guess that's what it would be, something like that.
Yeah.
Like would you play like Carlson, O'Neill, Toro, like those? Okay.
I probably would. Just to be honest. How about you, Jake? What are your thoughts on those sort of?
So here, I'll give you one tonight example. Okay. Superstar tonight on FanDuel, $3,300 contest, 67 people you got to beat, right? I'm getting a little crazy. I'm not paying up for pitcher, paying down. Not going to tell you who it is, but I'm stacking Dodgers and Padres. I hope they hit a bunch of homers. I get all that leverage. I get the top pitchers don't end up pitching that well with the sticky stuff going on we've been talking about. Maybe Anderson might come up and have a decent game. He's got a ceiling, and I get some good win equity and take that down. I just need homers and that kind of thing. If you knock down some of the homers, you can definitely everyone's going to pay for DeGrom. Everyone's going to pay for him. He's going to be 90% owned. He has the medium game. You're already in the top 10%, like you said.
Trae Young is out.
I love it. Trae Young is out. I'm not surprised.
I thought he was out earlier. They already.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by this a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I know that everybody else was. I've already seen a bunch of like messages from friends. I can't believe Trae's not playing. But yeah, he's out tonight. I will talk. We talk really quickly a little bit about some basketball because we sort of covered most of the things in baseball, I think. And I think this has been a really good discussion, and hopefully for general DFS play, not just about tonight's slate, which is what we try to do. We're trying to make everybody better, not just for tonight. Yeah. So Jay asked in chat about whether we pivot away from Middleton. No, I wouldn't pick Middleton to save my life tonight. You couldn't get me to play a lineup without Middleton, unless I was running. If I was running 150 in the showdown, I would play 90% of Middleton and try to get weird and do something else. I don't really know how you would do it or why you would fade Middleton tonight. And Reddish is not slowing anybody down. I don't think that's even a real thing. Middleton has good and bad games. He's a streaky player. But you're not skipping Middleton tonight, in my opinion. If you're playing, am I missing something, Sheets? There's no way you're not playing him, right? If you're playing Sheets,
No, I'm going to play Middleton.
You just need the raw points. I know Jake. Jake. We didn't talk about this before, but I don't know if you're even playing NBA Showdown right now. But honestly, a situation like this where you really need the raw points, because wouldn't you just take the guy who's supposed to have the highest raw points? Like it's just so hard to win without him, and I mean, it would take an injury or something.
Yeah, Middleton would be almost a lock unless an injury. Then the guy's going to get lucky with one of those random. He picked a bunch of guys and then put Middleton in it, takes it down because he got hurt. He's going to
that happens, but it never actually really happens. Even like when Giannis got hurt and he was hurt in the second quarter of that game, or maybe it was the early third. People were like, "Oh, look at this! I faded Giannis, and Giannis was on every winning lineup on every kind of showdown thing that was possible, even still with 29 fantasy points. You need raw points, so I would never fade Middleton here. I don't think, unless I was. Maybe I get rid of a few percent. I don't know. It'd be really hard to talk me out of it. But yeah, I don't really have a ton of really hot takes on the NBA slate tonight. I think you're playing the guys you should play. I think Lou Williams. I mean, if you're playing Lou Williams, you're playing Kevin Huerter, in my opinion, or you could probably fade. You could think about fading him. Bogdanovich. I want the other active guards who are in the creators and be more likely to fade the bigs in general. Although I do think this might be a little bit of a better game for Capella personally. It's sort of just a feel from watching the series. There's nothing I have incredible to back it up with. He did have the eye injury, and there's been some weird blowouts, which has kept his production down. But I do sort of like Capella tonight. That's the only thing I have. And I don't know if I'd captain him, but I would consider it because Capella has a monster ceiling. Okay, we've seen 70+ games from him. Nobody's going to use him in their captain spot, I don't think, tonight. So he might be the interesting creative captain. Do you guys have any creative captains on this slate for the guys? A lot of guys follow us because they love the NBA stuff we do. Any creative captains on tonight's slate? Sheets?
Not for me.
Yeah. I like the Capella call. I really do. He had some monster games this year so far. So yeah, I haven't really got too much NBA. I usually end of the season, I kind of get tired of the NBA, the late scratches, the injuries. Like I get my money early in the season and then I kind of fade out, and then it goes into baseball. So
that's what I do.
How I want to do it, and I like that way. So
I happen to like I think the NBA playoffs is probably my highest ROI. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the most money that I've won. It certainly isn't because the tournaments aren't as big and you end up chopping certain things. But I love the NBA playoff slates when there's like 3 or 4 games. Or even 2 games, honestly. You can still find enough.
They're not really having those though. They really screwed up. They didn't really make good use of those.
No, it sucks because they were on the weekends too, and I was trying to take the weekends off, so I didn't actually get to play even the few that there were. But I did do really well in the NBA playoffs overall. I just didn't do well in baseball at the same time for some reason. All right, guys. I think we're about to get out of here. If there's any other questions, drop them in. I'll stay out here for another 5 minutes. Jake, this has been great, man. And hopefully we can have you do this again because this is and it's great talking with you. I think it's always good to talk to another guy who's, it's funny an expert to talk to an expert out there who approaches things in a similar or slightly different ways in certain things. And I really think it's been helpful. And I think that the people out there hopefully appreciate it as well. It certainly seems like they do based on what they're saying right now.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been fun. It was technically my first show, so I've not really done these lives and talked DFS. So I had a great time tonight. So
awesome. You did a great job, man. Chief, anything else before we go ahead?
You did well, Jake.
We'll see how well we did tonight.
My first show I was on with Eric Crane. I don't know if you know him, Jake, but he used to play big and he was a big on Roto Grinders. He did the XM shows and he's a friend of mine now. But my first show ever was with him, a basketball show, and he was talking and about 5 minutes in, he goes, "I can't talk anymore. I'm about to win the Millionaire Maker." He was winning the football slate. We were doing a Sunday afternoon show for some reason.
Oh, gotcha.
But it was just anyway. It was just funny though. So yours is definitely. I was stumbling all over the place. Definitely better than my first show. All right, guys. Well, good luck to everybody out there. Hopefully, somebody from True DFS takes it down. And like Big Ticket, thanks for mentioning it. You guys throw them out there in the Discord and talk about this stuff. This is great. We love to see the results. We love to see the lineups that actually won that you guys are taking it down with. And we're certainly glad that you appreciate it and you thank us for our help because we are here to help you and we're here to help ourselves. And I love our little community. So anything else, Jake or Sheets, before we get out of here?
I'm good. Good luck, everybody.